What is going on, and welcome back to the YouTube. So in this video we are going to go through why I think a 4-day training split is probably the sweet spot for 90% of men looking to build a better physique. So over the years I've done all of the training splits that you can think of: your push-pull legs, your bro splits, full bodies, upper lowers, and everything else in between. And since bringing boxing back into my training and doing 2 to 3 boxing sessions a week, I've realized that a 4-day split is the perfect sweet spot for managing, building a better physique, getting stronger, but also being able to perform in your sport while having a life outside of the gym. So in this video, I'm going to go through exactly how I set up my 4-day split and how you can do it yourself. So as I said, over the last 10 years, I've done every split you could think of. From early on, my main goal was to build as much muscle mass as possible. And I've done the bro splits, I've done the push-pull legs twice a week, so six training days per week, which was absolutely no use. Then eventually moved on a 5-day split, which was a push-pull legs variation, followed up with another 2 sessions depending on what I was working on or what I was trying to improve, which is great. I believe if it comes to building muscle itself, a 5-day split is ideal. But when it comes to having a bit of a life outside of the gym, maybe playing some sort of a sport and wanting to perform well in that too, it is just a little bit too much. And the idea for this video came about because a couple of weeks ago, I actually tried going back to a 5-day split. I thought to myself, right, I need to work harder, I need to push myself more. And I tried going to the gym and doing weights 5 times a week. I've done push-pull legs followed by upper lower. And what I quickly realized that on my rest days when I was trying to do boxing, I could barely keep my hands up. My feet were all over the place because I was just so fatigued. I just wasn't recovering in order for me to be able to perform in boxing. So since then I went back to an upper lower split 4 times a week. And what I realized over the last couple of weeks since going back is the actual benefits of training 4 times a week. So I'm able to train every single muscle group twice per week, which is ideal when it comes to building muscle. I'm able to fit in necessary volume for me to continue building more muscle as the time goes on. I'm able to recover enough to get stronger in the gym. And more importantly, I'm able to recover so I can actually perform in the boxing sessions. So I am able to just perform across the board. And at the end of the day, as I said, having a life outside of the gym, as much as training is a massive part of my life, it's what I do, it's what I literally built my life around. I still sometimes like to have a life outside of the gym, and doing a 4-day training split still allows you to, if you want to do something maybe over the weekend and you don't want to spend that time in the gym, or you don't have that time to spend in the gym, you can get your training done between Monday to Friday very, very easily and still recover in between. I think it's important to mention that when it comes to choosing what training split you do, number one has to come down to your goal, which is what's your number one priority at the moment. And for me, yes, I want to continue building muscle mass in the gym. I want to continue getting stronger, but I also want to be able to progress with my boxing. Second thing I would consider is how much time do you actually have? Because for me, I get to choose how many times I go to the gym. I go to the gym every single day. But when it comes to your life, like because of your work, you might be constrained to maybe training 3-4 times a week. Or potentially life, you might have kids, you might have other responsibilities that make going to the gym 5-6 times a week a little bit too much. So at the end of the day, it just has to come down to what's actually right for you, your lifestyle, and your current situation. So how does my actual training split look like at the moment? Monday, I do my upper one, which includes my chest, back and shoulders, and I follow that up with 5 minutes of HIIT cardio, or 5 rounds of HIIT cardio. Tuesday I do lower one, which is where I train biceps, triceps and then legs, focused a little bit more on quads, and after that I do steady state 20 minutes of cardio. And on Wednesday it is a weights rest day, you can say, but that is where I do one of my main boxing sessions. I do 12 rounds of 3 minutes, 1 minute rest in between. So it's a longer cardio session. Then on Thursday we do upper two, chest, back, shoulders, different exercises just for a little bit more variety, and 5 rounds of HIIT after. Friday is a lower two, again arms to start things off, biceps, triceps, and then a little bit more of a hamstrings focused day, followed by steady state cardio for 20 minutes. Saturday is another boxing day, okay, another 12 rounds, and Sunday, depending on the week, is sparring. So one thing you might be wondering is, why am I training arms and legs in the same session? And the reason being is, there's a couple of reasons, but the main reason being was I found that my upper days were actually getting too long, because I'm training chest, shoulders and back, which are 3 completely different muscle groups. It takes that little bit longer to actually warm up to them, and it just took a little bit too long, and I found myself training arms at the end and just feeling like I'm tagging them along. And my arms are actually something that I actually want to prioritize, grow them a little bit more. So putting them at the start of my leg days gives them that little bit more of priority. And number 2 is, leg days are tough as they are, and I feel like bringing in a little bit more arm, something you enjoy a little bit more, makes it that little bit more enjoyable as a full day. So what do the actual training days look like? Firstly, I start every single session with abs. Okay, so on upper one I do cable crunches. I do 2 sets of those, followed by a flat dumbbell press for 2 sets, followed by cable flies of 3 sets, followed by lat pull down 3 sets, cable row 2 sets, and then rear delt flies for 2 sets, and machine lateral raises for 3 sets. So what you can see here is every single muscle group that I'm working on gets 2 exercises and 5 sets in total. Then when it comes to my first leg day of the week, as I said, it's arms and legs, quads focused. So the first exercise, as I said, I start every single session with abs. It's an ab rollout, 2 sets of that. Then we go straight into barbell curls, straight bar extensions on a cable, leg extension, leg curl, split squat, adductors and calf raises. So a little bit more volume in this session. You'll see for every single arm movement, or the 2 arm movements, I have 4 sets each, okay, and then 3 sets of leg extension, 3 sets of leg curls, 2 sets of split squats, 3 sets of adductors and 4 sets of calf raises. Then we have upper 2. I start this off with cable crunches again. Then I actually have 3 sets of pull-ups, just because it's a movement I want to get better at, stronger at, and continue making progress with. Then I go into a flat dumbbell press, pec deck. So the difference between this lat pull down and the one I do on the first upper day is just a slight setup difference. On the first day I use a V-bar, nice and close grip, it's something that I enjoy doing at the moment. And with the dual pull down, the main difference is there is 2 separate cables for it. So I use 2 separate attachment, slightly wider grip. Then I use a dual cable row, rear delt flies, dumbbell shoulder press and dumbbell lateral raises. So to finish off the week, the last session of the week, which is actually today's session, it is arms and legs with hamstrings as the main focus. I start the session off with 4 sets of dips, 4 sets of incline dumbbell curls, leg extension, leg curl, RDLs, adductors, and calf raises again. So that is the total setup for the week. So what you will see is every single muscle group is going to get anywhere between 8 to 10 sets per week. The bigger muscle groups like my chest, back, shoulders are going to get 10 sets. My quads, hamstrings are going to get 10 sets. Then some of the smaller muscle groups like my arms, they're getting 8 sets total. Then calves 8 sets, and I believe the only other exercise or muscle group which is a little bit more specific, adductors, they only get 6 sets total per week. But that is the setup for the time being, and it works absolutely perfect for me. As I said, the main reason why I switched to a 4-day split is because of boxing. So that fits in on Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and they are heavy sessions as they are. And I found that with any other split, what was happening is I was getting into sessions and I was barely able to keep my arms up. And this is something really important that I think a lot of people try to kind of force whenever they're playing a sport, whether it's football, running, boxing, whatever the case may be. They still try to fit in their 5 sessions, and they underperform across the board because they feel like they need those 5 sessions, which is absolutely not the case. If you structure things right, give yourself enough training volume when it comes to each and every single muscle part, which is going to be anywhere between 8 to 10 sets per week, not per session, per week. So again, what you will see, I'll train my triceps for 8 sets total per week, for an example, and be able to recover between sessions properly and be able to progress in sessions. Like, that's something that I think a lot of people miss out on, is just training for the sake of training. And with that, regardless of how many sessions you do a week, you're never going to, progress with your physique, progress with your strength if you do not actually chase progressions. So I could train every single day of the week if I was just going in there and going through the motions, but because every single set that I've said to you, I train to failure. I push myself as hard as I possibly can. I keep my form as tidy as possible. And again, I chase progression in every single set, not just like the first one where I'm my strongest. Every single set that I do, the purpose is to progress from the last week's session. And it's not going to happen every single time, but that is the intent. So who actually shouldn't use a 4-day split like this one? I think when it comes to being a complete beginner, I think you might actually benefit from just doing 3 days per week and exposing your body to doing similar movements over and over again to help you improve your form as quickly as possible. I think if your sole goal and purpose is to build as much muscle mass as possible, I think doing 5 sessions per week is going to be what you want to do, because again, you are able to not only train every single muscle mass, every single muscle part per week, but you're also going to be able to be a little bit more specific. So if you have a lagging body part or a body part that you want to improve, you're going to be able to give its own specific day and a little bit more focus. There also might be someone who is trying to focus on a sport a little bit more, and that could be, I have clients who run marathons, they only train 3 times per week. Lads who want to perform in football as best as possible, they do 3 sessions per week. So again, we structure things a little bit differently if your main goal is actual performance outside of the gym. I'm not saying that a 4-day training split is automatically going to be the best thing for everyone, but I think if your goal is to improve your physique, build some muscle, build some strength, and you also want to be active outside of the gym, whether that's running, boxing, playing football, whatever the case may be, and you also want to have a life outside of the gym, I think that is the most optimal split that you could use. So if you are someone who is currently maybe following a 5 or 6 day weight training split, but you're feeling like you're constantly sore, you can't really see much progression in terms of your strength or your physique, try a 4 day split. Pull back on the amount of training days, but actually increase your quality of the work that you're putting in. So focus on training to failure as much as you possibly can, and focus on your form being as good as it possibly can be. And I guarantee you that 4 quality sessions are going to be worth a lot more than 5 or 6 if you are struggling to complete them. I hope that helps. For anyone that might have specific questions to their own setup, drop a comment or drop me a DM on Instagram. I'll be more than happy to help.